All right, and welcome to the Vonu Podcast, the podcast making you invulnerable to the coercion of the state and the servile society. I'm your host, Shane Rayo2, coming to you from the Veritas node of the Free Republic of PAZNIA, the Self-Liberators paradise. For more on this burgeoning parallel network, just visit PAZNIA, PAZNIA.com. Back near the beginning of the podcast, Kyle and I started a mini-series called TVP Interviews. That was supposed to be a continuing discussion with different self-liberators living different liberated lifestyles. Well, just like the intermission episodes eventually got rolled into all into the main numbering, so did the TVP Interviews series. Today I come to you with one of those, a discussion with two self-liberators from across the pond, somewhere in Europe, both with experience living on a sailboat. And one, I believe, splits time between a van and a boat. And to be frank, I want to do a lot more of these. So if you're living a liberated lifestyle and want to come on and discuss it, I'd be extremely appreciative. Just email shane@libertarianattack.com or email wherever is convenient, and we'll get it set up. I'm also more than fine with a written report, too, if, audio, podcasts aren't your style or whatever, and I can turn that into an audio podcast myself, made available with all of the others at VonuPodcast.com. Totally up to you. So without further ado, I've got Barend and Maarten with me. Barend and Maarten, welcome to the Vonu Podcast, and thanks in advance for taking some time to share. How are you both doing today? And I guess, Barend, you can go ahead and start.
Yeah, I'm doing fine. I just went on the boat of my my other neighbor. So I used to live together with Maarten in the same harbor on an old boat. And since in the last few years, I've been living in a house, but my old neighbor invited me to go with him to bring his boat to the yard. So that's what I did today. So in the morning, I still have met Maarten in the harbor, and then we went with the boat of our neighbor to the shipyard. And it was quite a windy day, so there were quite some waves. So it was interesting to cross the big lake with this boat. But we survived, and the boat survived, and the boat is now ready to go on the yard after the weekend. So yeah, that's what I did today.
Well, that sounds very exciting. Very exciting. I guess for your guys' benefit, I'll mention I've always been very interested in the idea of living on a sailboat. If you consider like the freedom of the open ocean, and really like there's nobody out in the open ocean. Primarily, not very many people in the open ocean. So there's no coercers, there's no bludge, there's not really that really doesn't exist. So you can find a lot of freedom.
Yeah.
Can find a lot of freedom on the open ocean.
I must admit that we are slightly freshwater sailors. So Maarten has at least tried to cross the ocean, but he came back and he also switched to freshwater.
Okay.
And also the lake we crossed today was still freshwater, but still it's very, very liberating to sail on your boat, and it's very liberating when your house doesn't need to keep on the same place all the time, and it can move. And I think many people who live on boats do not sail very many times. So especially when the whole thing gets moving and crosses the lake, that's really exciting, and that makes us very happy. And that's what we did today with one of my other old neighbors.
Gotcha. So I obviously want to hear more from you, Barend, but I'll go ahead and introduce Maarten here. Maarten, you've been living on your boat for quite some time. I guess do you mind? And I guess actually for the audience, I'll say that the audio might not be perfect for this one, but we'll make it great. It'll work out just fine. But this is I think you might even be on the boat. So
Yes, I am.
Right on. So there we go. We got him live from the boat. So yeah, Maarten, please introduce yourself.
My name is Maarten Phillipson, and I like to think I'm liberal, but on the other side, I might say it's probably necessity that I'm living aboard a boat, because it's less expensive than a house in this country. I also happen to have a camper. I use that for, you can't get on the ocean in a camper, but I use that to go to Southern Europe, France, Spain, Portugal in wintertime in order to stay warm. Right now I'm on a boat, like I said, but the boat is pretty well immobile because I removed the mast. The mast I have been removed for maintenance, and I'm busy doing that right now, outside, in the rain and the sunshine. It's not that difficult, but it is time. It takes time, and that is what ticking me off. And I just can't wait to put the mast back on and go sail again. By the way, how's the audio?
It's pretty great actually. Yeah, I think it's better than what it was pre-show. So
Okay.
I'm even more pleased.
Yeah.
So yeah, Martin, I guess I'm curious. You know, you've been doing this for I guess a long time. What got you? I guess what kind of gave you the idea to hit the road as a splitting time between as a van nomad, as we'd call it here on the podcast, and living on a sailboat. Like, what were motivations? Obviously, you mentioned housing prices, but I guess what kind of led you into it? And I guess give us an idea of you're liberated. I guess give us an overview of any cool things you've done, anything you've learned, etc.
Well, it's probably a gypsy curse, if you know what I mean. And I rolled into it. I had a sailboat, and I had a sailboat. I had a job. I had a home. And that was just fine. It was peachy, no problem. However, I began to retire in 2011. I retired, and that means you take a deep cut in your income. And since I happen to have the boat, I figured, you know what, I'm going to live aboard the boat, because I used to do that in America, in Long Beach, as a matter of fact, Long Beach Harbor. I used to live there for about 6-7 years aboard a small vessel. That was after my divorce. So the message is here: it's cheaper to keep her. Stay married and be happy. Don't get a divorce because you're cast away. You gotta do crazy things. So I had to go back here to Holland because of family circumstances. And like I said, I got a job and house and a boat, and all of a sudden it fell apart because I had to retire. And it's not that bad living on a boat, because the boat is a 40-footer. It's not that bad. I have no girlfriends or friends who visit me every day, so I've got my own kingdom here. 40 foot long and 6-7 feet wide, and I'm just put this boat together so that I can sail. But sail is nice, but I'm not the youngest anymore. I already passed 75, so it's going to be rather difficult. And it is easier to stay home and do computer and then go out at the water, because it could be scary at times.
But Maarten, I think you're the greatest traveler of our whole harbor, because you've been to the south part of France with your boat. That's true, Shane. That's true. But it was inshore, okay, inside. That was on the rivers. That was not on the salt water. It was just on the river of France. And that was a nice trip. I must admit, that was a nice trip, and I enjoyed it. But, it's not sailing. It's just motorboating, and you go from lock to lock to lock. But it's something that needs to be done, because most people find it interesting to do it, but they just talk and don't do anything. I managed to find the space and the time to do so, and that's what I did, together with my older brother, because it's a two-man job. So I hope to get this summer, my boat ready. Then I go out there and start sailing with this boat, because this boat, I already have it 2-3 years, but I haven't put much time into it. And I need to become accustomed to the boat so I can handle it by myself. And I'm not the youngest anymore. So I'll see if I can teach myself again to sail a boat, to handle it. Okay. And regarding my camper, like I said, it's the gypsy curse. When I was living stateside, I took my son from LA to Alaska. LA, California, Alaska, Anchorage, the city of Anchorage in Alaska, in a camper, in a small Toyota camper, together with my son. And we stayed there for 3-4 weeks, and then we came back because he had to go to school, of course.
So that was quite interesting. And the result was that 5 years ago in 2019, my son called me up and he says, Dad, let's make the trip again to Anchorage, Alaska. I said, well, sorry, I ain't going to do that. How about Norway? We'll take Norway because North Norway is quite similar to Alaska. It's the same countryside, the same mountains, the same rivers, the same animals. It's the same, except you're in Norway. And that's what we did. And up and down, that was 3,500 miles, I think, with a Mercedes camper. That was quite interesting. And I need to do that again by myself. So I'm just right now. I'm just trying to work myself to the bone in order to get the boat ready to sail. And if time permits, I might get in my camper and go to South Frankrijk of southern France or Spain. However, it is rather difficult to go wild camping because the authorities don't want you to go wild camping. You know, park somewhere and do your stuff. It's a no-no. They don't want to. So that makes it rather difficult. That makes it difficult to be a liberal-minded person and damn the consequences. It makes it difficult. And
so you're referencing we'd call it, I guess, city squat, I guess van nomads and city squats, spots. So basically, parking somewhere overnight in a city is now, I guess, becoming frowned upon. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Same thing's happening
yeah.
here, but just making sure we're on the same page. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, but the comparison with America, Europe is pretty tight, or because they will arrest you, or they'll fine you, or they'll tow you away, and you have to go to a KOA camping ground for $25 a night.
Okay, so it might be
$25 for 24 hours.
Seems, yeah.
Yeah, it ain't worth it. It ain't worth it. You know, and you can avoid some of that stuff. You can omit it by park where the trucks are parked. Somewhere along the highway, along the freeway, the highway, secondary roads. If you see a couple of trucks parked, you just go park there also in the vicinity behind the trucks, and then nobody gives a damn if you're there. That is possible. However, you should not engage in camping activity. No tables or stools outside, no food outside. Just keep yourself low profile and nobody bothers you.
Right.
So that's an option, but that puts a crimp on your style. I would think so.
Certainly, yeah. No, I mean the attractive part of van nomadism to me is more like out here in the U.S. A lot of for better for better in this regard, but for worse in most other circumstances. There's a lot of so-called like BLM public land out west, which is just desert and wilderness, and I mean you could go out and not see anyone for weeks. So if you can be self-contained, it might be a pretty feasible lifestyle. But I don't know. I'm more leaning against it now in the States. More on account of just traveling on the public roads. The cops are getting pretty terrible here not that they've been good, the bludge, but as they're getting, especially we're going state to state, interstate commerce, it's getting pretty bad. But anyway, Barend, I don't want to leave you out of this. But I guess would you mind? I guess you said you lived for 10 years. On a boat in in a harbor. I guess give us a little more idea on your background, your philosophy, kind of what you've done and what you're doing now.
Yeah. No, yeah. My hobby was already big old boats, and for that reason, I wanted to buy myself a big old sailing vessel and restore it, make it sailing again, and so on. And you could do that, and at the same time buy a house. But that's much more expensive than have a boat and also live on it. So that's also one of the reasons for me to live on a boat. But next to that, if you live on a boat, you also live on a very nice place. So it was very close to the water. I could swim directly from my home. Maarten can step into his canoe immediately from his home. And it's possible to travel with your home. So that's what I really liked. And at the same time, I had another sailing boat, and I went with groups of passengers to the other side of the lake. so people could rent a boat for a weekend, and then we went to the other side of the lake. They could drink some beers there and stay on the boat for the night. And the next day we went back. That's great to do. Now, and at a certain moment, my wife came to the boat, and my children were born. Also, one of them on the boat in the hospital. But I was living there with 2 small children. And then it was not that easy anymore to sail with passengers anymore, or even to sail with my house. Or then things get a little bit more complicated when small children are on the boat as well. And that's also one of the reasons why I'm in a house now, because it's much more convenient that the children can go to their friends to play with them themselves, instead of that they need to go for 3 kilometers from the harbor to the city to find their friends.
Sure.
Yeah, but I really enjoyed my time on the boat a lot. And I think for living on a boat, the two main strategies, I think that's quite similar to when you want to travel in a van. That the one option is to hide the van, so to let it look like a normal van instead of a camping van. And something similar goes for boats. When your boat is not that big, like 8 or 9 meters or so, then it looks like a boat that people just have for the leisure. And as soon as your boat is getting bigger, then it's harder to find a place where you can live on it, because people immediately think that you may want to live on a boat when it's 20 meters or so. And that's stimulates people to ask, do you live on the boat? Is that allowed? And that's making things more complicated. So that can be a reason, to live on a relatively small boat. Then it's easier to find a place for the boat, but also it doesn't get too much attraction. However, my goal is because one of the strategies, if you want to live on a boat or when you want to live in your own way, one of the strategies is to hide, let people not discover what you're doing and how you're living. But I think another strategy, what we should also try to accomplish, is that of being accepted. And in the moment, the direction is that we get more and more government interference. And also for houseboats, it's getting harder and harder to find a place where you can live on it. But what I would like to accomplish is that we go the other direction, that people understand that it's normal to live and let live, and that it's normal that people can live how they prefer, on a boat, in a van, in a tent. People can prefer different lifestyles. And I think it's very important to tell more people the story that it's normal, and that it's not normal to force people into a certain lifestyle. And that's maybe my most important goal for the next few years. So some people want to live all in the same kind of houses, and some people don't want to do that. Yeah, that's fine, but the people who all want to live in the same kind of houses should not force other people to do the same. And that's what's happening now.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a great introduction. Yeah, go right ahead, Maarten.
There's a problem brewing here in Europe because of the war in the East, and things might blow over, or things might get more and more serious. And I mean by that more authority you see on the road. That means crossing the border nowadays, you just drive across from Holland and Germany just like that. There's no problem. Nowadays they have border control, and that puts a crimp in my lifestyle. The same with France. The authority, the cops, they are more alert on radical people. And if you drive in a camper, you're probably a radical person. And that means they stop you and assert you. They just harass you. And I think that's going to happen. And that is not what I like. And I
Yeah,
like to go.
yeah, I
Please go
agree.
ahead.
That's a very, very, very dangerous direction for our society. That is getting more and
Yeah,
more authoritarian, and that many people accept that. That many people think it's great that the government pushes us around instead of leaves us alone.
yeah. It's governments all over the world are like that, and they have a tendency to do so. Um, I like to pay a visit to Romania because I remember the gypsy curse.
Oh yeah.
One of my grandmothers is a Romanian gypsy, so that's the gypsy curse coming from. But that means I have to go to Romania one of these days, and I hope I can make it within a couple of years. But it's awful close to Russia and Ukraine, Romania, so I don't know if it's a good thing. You know, one of these days the rockets are going to be flying here over, and that's end of story. And the government might come out with mandates from you cannot do this, you cannot do that. That boat is dangerous, put it somewhere else. We have to watch out for that. They already talking in this country, they put on a war footing, a war economy. They already talk about the war economy. We're going to produce for the army. We're going to produce for the Air Force and the Navy. Those are dangerous signals. And we cannot neglect it. And that puts indeed a crimp in our liberal lifestyle. I'm going to do it. I'm going to drive. I'm going there. Leave me the hell alone. It's my life. As I'm not going to happen soon. What do you say, Shane? Do you have something similar in the stateside?
Oh yeah, certainly. I mean, I mentioned, so like van nomadism was, it's what we call it here on the Vonu. It's just the terminology that I guess Rayo used back in the 60s, the original Rayo. But yeah, I'm kind of I'm not really in favor of hitting the road again, and that permanent, at least here in the States, just because, as you're saying, it's still internal. It's kind of like the European Union, right? But and there's not necessarily borders when you go between states, but there are, I drive an hour and a half east, or I guess west, to St. Louis, or not, yeah, an hour west of St. Louis, a big city, and you'll see like 40 cops, like just a ridiculous amount, and they're always looking to talk with people. So
and that's
like
good development.
Yeah, and it sounds like the same thing's happening. It's in Europe over where you guys are. And yeah, again, the war, close down the borders because you don't want, I guess that's the excuse, right? So I guess it makes sense. It might be for slightly different reasons. Well, yeah, it definitely is. So there, I guess the excuse for I guess over there is war, probably. I guess the war kind of economy. And here it's more so like if you get pulled over by a big city, they're going to ask you if you like traffic fentanyl or something. So that's more the reason that they're trying to harass people, allegedly. So
yeah,
just different reasons, but same shit.
Yeah, I used to live stateside for 27 years, so I know the country pretty good. And in the 80s, I took a break for 9 months in the 80s. And I drove all around the United States in my little Volkswagen Scirocco. It was terrific. Nobody bothers you. You just drive on the freeway till you get tired and you pull off. You go to sleep for 3-4 hours somewhere in the parking lot, next in the truck stop. And then you start up your engine in the morning and hop, there you go. I drove all the way round trip America. It was terrific. You can't do that anymore. I think you can do it, but you come across some difficulties. Cops stop you. Where are you going? What are you doing? Well, how come you're here? And I'm glad I used to live in the States in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s because those were the reasonable good times. And it's becoming less and less because governments, they extend their power because they think they have to, because they think they can. And that is a dangerous development. But and that also goes back to sailing on the ocean because the countries that borders the ocean also extend their patrols. They are patrolling the oceans, looking for people like me. For smugglers, They stop you and they ask you if you carry contraband. Of course, I don't. But they stop you and they arrest you and they take all your particulars. And that's, geez, man, don't bother me. Leave me alone, man. Yeah, that's the way it is. There's nothing you can do about it. On the other side, it's possible that I'm overreacting because I haven't been on the ocean in 10, 12 years. So I need to go back there. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Well, you know how it goes. You make plans and it's not going to work on the way. So it could make for difficult times. It's possible. Yes, please talk. Yeah, I'm listening.
What you told about the 70s, that I was born in 1980, so
I'm sorry.
Don't know too much about it, but I think that that has been a great period, and that it's really a problem that now the direction is from more liberty towards less and less liberty and more government intervention. And for that reason, I think it's extremely important that we promote liberty and that we also promote a very friendly type of liberty. Because one of the problems of the liberty movement is that some people promote unfriendly types of liberty. And I think we must be very clear that what we promote should be a liberty that for.
Barend, that wasn't me in general.
Many people, for instance, suggest
hey, Barend?
that...
Barend, it cut out there for just like 10 or 15 seconds. I think the last thing I heard was should be liberty for, I think you're going to say liberty for all, potentially. But it might have cut out.
At least equal liberty. So a type of liberty that's not only possible for a small group of people, but what in fact can make most people happier.
Right. So let me I guess let me ask this then, because this is a good tie-in to your book, which is how we originally got in contact. Was that it's called On Liberty and Earth Ownership. Do you want to? It sounds like it ties into this. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. My book is in fact it's about two main topics. The first main topic is liberty. And the simple message is that live and let live should be very normal. That society will be better if people choose for live and let live, and that as soon as live and let live is not normal anymore, and governments are prescribing how we live our lives, that's not something that we should look for. That is not the way to go. And the second topic of my book is how we own the earth. And I think that for if you want to live your life in a normal way, that in fact you need two basic things. The first thing is liberty, and the simple form of it is not interference from other people who forbid you to live how you want to live. But the second thing you need is your share of the earth, or a place to live, a place to do what you want to do. So people need space to build their home, or to run their business, or to grow some food. And I think the combination of both things, so just liberty as live and let live, and having your share of the earth, that's what we need if we want to live freely. And in fact, that's the topic of my book.
So Barend, you just described the hippie movement from the 60s, right, Shane?
I mean, it sounds like a lot like what was found in the in the old Vonu zines too, which is why I'm enjoying this conversation with you guys a lot, because it's basically what all these folks are writing about in the 60s and 70s, when van nomadism was super popular, when people weren't harassed as often. It was a very, very feasible and cheap lifestyle. I mean, if people lose their homes and they're forced out into their cars, I mean, that tells you how cheap the lifestyle can be if people are if it's like a last resort. But you can also kind of thrive doing it, or you at least could. And I think you still can. It's just a lot more difficult whether you have to basically be more self-contained and off-grid out in like the west in the U.S. Or if I do van nomadism again, it's probably going to be in Mexico, just because you're still going to deal with the bludge harassment. But when I drove from or I went down, I drove with down to Acapulco with my buddy. We went through Mexico City, from Austin, Texas. So it was a pretty 20-hour drive through Mexico, essentially. And we got. I mean, as the big cities like Mexico City, they will try to extort you. But then again, like even if you do get like messed with by cops, you can it's a pretty cheap extortion. And if I can just toss a bludge, $20 or $100 to fuck off, then that's okay with me. It's a lot better than like getting your home seized or like your car, your home, like your little home impounded. It's lots of overlaps and I'm loving it.
It's gratifying to know that the hippies is a typical American development. You know that? It's typical American hippies. The hippie commune from the 60s in California. So nowhere else is that. Started in the 60s in California, the hippies. And they're happy people. I've been there a couple of times. Just as you look at it.
I wasn't there in the 60s, but I think that similar events have happened in Europe as well. And people have even traveled in vans until, for instance, Afghanistan. Isn't it?
I don't know. I was stateside most likely when that happened. I was stateside. I can tell you, in 1990, we had a solar eclipse in 1990, and everybody said you need to go to Mazatlan, Mexico. And I've been there from Dallas to Mazatlan with my Toyota camper. I went to Mexico, and I did have contact with the cops, but in general, they left me alone. They did check me out when I was parked next to the road for 4 or 5 days. And every night it came the same patrol car came. Mexican patrol car with 5 cops in the back of the pickup truck. They came by and they checked me out. And they saw my Texas plates, gringo. And they left. But after the fortnight, they said, the heck with it, I'm going to move somewhere else because I don't trust it anymore. That was the extent of my harassment of the cops. But in general, no. In those days, that wasn't too bad going to Mexico. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how it is right now because they have... Yeah, please.
I think that's something very important to point out, that in fact there are 2 strategies for liberty, and I think we should use them both. So the one is that individuals seek their liberty, for instance, by hiding or by try to find ways not to get harassed by cops. But another strategy, what we should follow at the same time, if possible, is the strategy of the moral revolution. Because in the end, society is much greater if cops don't feel that they have the right to interfere with you if you want to live in a van, if you want to travel. And I think the greatest result that we could have would be that we could push society back in the direction of being more tolerant and accepting that people live how they prefer. And that's the main goal of my book.
Yeah, that's great. And I will mention that Barend's book, it should already be there by now, but I've been slacking on that and a couple other things. It will hopefully very soon be available in the Libertarian Type Publications catalog. I'm looking forward to reading it myself. So I think I've got to send you some money for those still, which again, another thing on the to-do list, but I'm excited to get it on, excited to make it available to my audience. So I guess the other aspect of your book, I think you mentioned something called Geoism. Do you want to, and you might have already talked about it, but it's a specific word, so we like to define terms and such.
Can you use another word for that expression?
Yes, there are 2 terms, so you can choose between them. One of them is Geoism, and the other one is Georgism.
Georgism. Okay.
And I think I myself prefer the term Geoism, and the basic concept is that the Geoism is the insight that people have equal rights to the earth. So that means that the relationship between, for instance, a landlord and a renter, or someone owning a harbor and someone renting a place to moor a boat, that there's something inherently strange about that. And then is the question, is it right that some people own most of the earth and other people need to pay them if they need a place where they want to live or where they want to run their business or they want to moor their boat? And Geoists state that people have equal rights to the earth. And in fact, there are two ways to translate Geoism into reality. The one option is just the moral understanding that it's normal that people have their share of the earth. And that would help immediately, for instance, when cops encounter you when you're in a van, when you don't take too much space, it should just be accepted that you use some space because people have right to the earth. And there's also another way to translate Geoism into a complete and even more complex kind of society, and that's a structure of a basic income and a land value tax. And when that happens, that's not a form of taxation to make the government bigger and more powerful, but it's just a method of sharing the earth. Because if people pay a land value tax and the revenues are divided as a basic income, the result will be that everyone can buy or hire or however you name it from the basic income his or her fair share of the earth. So, for instance, your basic income, you can use it to have some land to graze your cows. Maybe you want to live in a big city, then you can have a very small piece of a big city. Maybe you want to build an apartment building together with some like-minded people in a city. You can do that as well. But the system enables you to have your fair share of the earth, where you can live how you prefer. So you can or choose for a normal life with a job, and maybe you can rent a home or whatever. But you can also choose a completely different kind of lifestyle. For instance, homesteading, or even living as a Native American, or whatever you prefer, as long as you do not take much more than your share of the earth, because it's not possible that we all claim 10,000 hectares of land, because then then we don't have equal liberty anymore. Then people will just fight about who can have more of the land. Now that's the basic concept of Geoism.
I think that has been tried just after the Civil War. Um, then you had the concept of stakeholders. Shane, remember that or heard about that? Then there was a tract of land was given away by the government, and you could claim that. And it was basically 10, 20 people on the line on a horse, and there's the land, and you claim your land, 40 acres, I think it was. You put a stake there in the middle, and that is your land. So that is pretty much comes close what you're aiming at, Barend, I think.
It's interesting to compare this to what I think it was Lysander Spooner has written. Lysander Spooner has written in his essay. What was the name of the essay? No, it doesn't matter. I can look it up. He described that when slavery was abolished, that was not just a very noble thing to let the slaves live their
Give
own
it the
lives
freedom, yeah.
and live how they prefer, but that in fact it was a very smart way of using the slaves more efficiently, because the slaves were released, but the result was not that they were truly free, but the result was that they were forced into labor slavery. They could only
Serve them,
keep
yeah.
doing the same kind of work. They received some kind of income, and then they need to build their own home and cook their own food. But in fact, they were still almost property of their former owners, of the former
Yeah,
slaveholding
yeah.
class. So what Lysander Spooner in fact describes is that slaveholding has been replaced by the method of just owning the land. And by means of owning the land, the slaves were still unfree. And one of the things that one of the good persons from the government living those days has tried to do is enabling those former slaves to have some land to build a truly independent kind of living way of living. And I think that's the term. Yeah, I think you mentioned it, Maarten. 40 acres and a mule, or
40 acres and a mule. That was Lincoln. Lincoln did it for 7 years. He did that for 7 years, and after that, the Democrats killed it.
I don't know everything about history, but I think that Lincoln was one of the few.
Nee, Lincoln.
Yeah.
Niet Lincoln. Lincoln.
Lincoln. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
I'm a Dutch guy. So, but I think Lincoln was one of the presidents who really tried to help the former slaves to build an independent, enable them to have an independent way of living.
Yeah, that's true. He did 40 acres and a mule. He also bought a piece of land in Western Africa. It's called Liberia. He just bought it, and every black person that feels like it can go back there. And some of them did, but not everybody. So attempts have been made to organize society to the extent, you can designate it as liberalism. Be liberal, be there, do what you want. Just don't offend anyone, because of what most people don't realize. It's freedom, it's liberal, but it doesn't give you the right to offend other people. Most people.
I think one of the problems for people who love liberty is that some terms cannot be used, in fact, anymore. And I think that's in the United States even more than in Europe. But in Europe, it's rather the same. In Europe, we also have some liberal political parties, but they are not in favor of liberty anymore.
No.
And for that reason, I think one of the options is to use the term libertarian. But also the term libertarian has some problems, because most libertarians in Europe, and I think that's the same for the United States, are so-called right libertarians. And the difference between right-wing and left-wing libertarians is mainly how they think about the land question. And right-wing libertarians believe that it's great that some people have most of the land and that they can get very rich, and they call them successful entrepreneurs. And left libertarians believe that people should be free how to live their lives, but that they should have the right to have their share of the earth. And I believe that that is the only way to make people truly free, to enable them really to choose how they want to live. So as soon as people can have land, they can choose their lifestyle. They can choose whether they want to live as a native Indian, or as a smallholder, or as a farmer.
Yeah. But you need a social structure, You need a social structure. I can be free tomorrow. Where's my food coming from? Where's my clothes coming from? See, you need a social structure to back that up.
Yeah, but I think that's also something important, also for anyone who loves liberty, because liberty, the wiser forms of liberty, are referred to as individual liberty. But I think that the term individual doesn't refer to lonely people who do things alone, but that it only means that people should not be forced to work together. And if people are not forced to work together from some kind of authority, people will still work together and form communities and do things together. And I think that's very important to also to emphasize, because for instance, the term individualist anarchism, that's the best form of anarchism that is available, but it doesn't sound very great, because people think individual, those are lonely people living alone somewhere in the wood. But it only means that individuals should work together based on the fact that both of them want to work together, instead of one person saying no, leave me alone, and the other says I'm from the government, we will work together.
I think it's called good fellowship, something like that. You live in a small cabin in the forest, But you have to have neighbors. Because if something happens to that person, he breaks his legs, or there's no food, then he has to go to a neighbor 2 miles further down the road in order to get help. You need to have a social structure. And no man is an island. Hey, I know that from, I read it somewhere. No man is an island.
I think that's also a very important thing to discuss if you discuss liberty, because I think that there are 4 main arguments against liberty, and that everyone who loves liberty should be able to have the right answers if these kind of objections against liberty are used. And can I mention the objections against liberty? The first one is people who are into liberty do not want to help others who need help. And I think it's very important for people who are into liberty that we have the right answer to that we want to help other people. But that
because we're social beings. We're social beings, that's why.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. But we must also be very aware that the fact that we have a moral obligation to help other people, that is not the same as having a moral obligation to obey bureaucrats.
Well, of course, there's a difference.
Those are 2 different things. And people who are in favor of a very big government usually mix these things. And they say if you're not in favor of enormous government with lots of bureaucrats, then you don't want to help other people. And I think we should all help other people, but we should have the option to do it in the way we want. Now, the second objection against liberty is people who want to live in liberty want to avoid paying their share. So, for instance, people don't want to pay for the roads they use, or those kind of things. And I think we can find answers to that as well. The third one, and that's also, it can be a problem of some people in the libertarian movement today, is that people who are into liberty sometimes hear that, sometimes act like they don't care for the environment. And I think that's also quite similar, that you can be into liberty and still want to save the earth. And the fourth one is a little bit more abstract maybe, but that's the idea that people who are into liberty want to force other people to live in total chaos. And that's the image of people who want to have radical liberty, that they want just to break down the complete government and society and everything that people feel safe with and want to keep. And I think it's also very important to tell other people that we just want to have the right to do things our way. So, for instance, we should have the right to live on our boat if we want to do that. But that's something completely different than breaking down the complete system and force all other people in the Netherlands to live in total chaos. And even people can live in places where people don't live on boats if they really hate the view of seeing people living on boats. But on the other hand, the people who want to live on a boat also have the right to have their share of the earth where people can live on boats.
I'm listening. Sorry, I'm listening. Go ahead.
I think these 4 objections against liberty, it's very important not just to ignore them, but to debate with each other as people who are into liberty and find the best answers, because this is really needed to make the make liberty more popular again, and make more people in favor of liberty.
Would you say there's a difference between liberty and freedom, or is it pretty much the same?
I think you can mix them. Maybe progressive people prefer the term freedom, and libertarian people prefer the term liberty. But I think you could mix them.
Yeah, I thought so too. If you want total freedom, for most people that's a difficult concept to grasp. Total freedom, what does that mean? What does that entail? What can I do about it? How does it affect me? And for most people, including myself, it could be scary. Total freedom. Imagine that, total freedom. What does it mean? How can I apply that? So we need to turn it down. We need to, how can I say it? Try to give people an prospect that makes sense when you talk about total freedom. People want to have a handhold.
I think we should at least sketch a very friendly type of liberty. So not a type of liberty that means that people who need help are left alone, but a much more friendly type of liberty where people work together, but where they work together based on consent, based on the idea that both parties want to work together, instead of one forced to join in a project that he doesn't want to be part of.
What every person wants, especially a young man, he wants land and a house. Okay? Land to
under the Geoist type of liberty, where people can have some land, that should be attainable, that should be possible. So for instance, in the Netherlands, there's a lack of houses in the moment, and in the Netherlands, that would immediately be resolved as soon as people can have some land, because building the house is not a big problem, but having some land is a big problem.
Yeah.
And I think Geoism can resolve this, because as soon as you have land, you can have a house, but you can also have a place where you can run your own business. You have a place where you can moor your boat. You have a place where you can celebrate your holiday, enjoy your food.
Yeah, it's a difficult concept, and I think most people roll into it, acquiring land, acquiring a house, they roll into it, and it develops automatically. And I see it quite often on YouTube on the amount of people living in Europe, and now you come across the shocking discovery that northern Spain is empty. The center of France is empty. The center of Spain is empty. The inland of Portugal is empty. Nobody lives there. Nobody lives there. And why is that? Because there is no industry. There is no means of making a living.
Mm-hmm. That's about it matters very much which location you have. So a share of the earth can, for instance, not be defined as 500 square meters each, because it matters a lot whether your 500 square meters are the center of Amsterdam or a more distant place in the Netherlands, or even the inlands of Spain.
Location. Real estate.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, I don't think so. This problem will be solved soon. I don't think so. This problem will be solved for sure, because all the noses, all the thinking processes have to go in the same way, have to point in the same direction in order to accomplish that. Everybody has to agree on it. Yeah, this is the way we're going to do it. And I'm sure there are dissidents somewhere who said, no, I ain't going to do that. So it's going to be rather difficult.
Yeah, I agree that it will not be very, very simple to resolve this issue. And abolishing slavery has also been something very complicated. So abolishing slavery has started with people who traveled around to the United States and told everyone slavery is very wrong. Please release your slaves, let them go. And some people also gave the right example. They freed their own slaves, and it took a lot of time until most people in society understood that slavery is very wrong. I think something similar needs to happen with earth ownership. The idea that some people have bought up the earth and that we need to pay them lots of money in order to have some place where we can build a home is problematic. And we will need some time to explain that to other people. And maybe it will take 50 or 100 years until most people understand it.
Because look around. You're on the freeway. You walk in the city. Look around. Everything what you see, all that land is either owned by the government or by private individuals. All the land.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So.
And the Georgists have, I think, the most realistic way to resolve this issue, and that is the system of a land value tax that can be combined with a basic income. Because as soon as the people who own Amsterdam or the harbor you live in will pay a land value tax, and you will receive a basic income, that will bring the power between the landowners and the rest of the people in balance, and people who want can have their share of the earth because they can exactly pay their fair share of the earth from their basic income. So if you want to keep a very complex society, that can be the way to organize it. However, that will only work if the moral revolution has taken place, because otherwise people will just see it as a way for the government to earn more money and to let the government grow bigger. And
remember,
the way to use it.
Yeah, I'm listening. Sorry.
Now, yeah, the second way to use it, if it's not realistic, for instance, to get a land value tax combined with the basic income, the second way, and that's also already a very important step forward, I think, would be that people understand that it's normal that people have some land, and that people who travel in a van, for instance, are not harassed by police officials. That people will want to have a place where they can moor their boat, that people see that it's very normal that people will get some space to live how they prefer, instead that people think that the present system, where some people buy up the earth and drive other people off their land, that's normal.
It's called the right to navigate. That is the British Admiralty law. The right to navigate. I can drive my boat anywhere where I feel like it. The right to navigate, except where it is forbidden. It's quite interesting.
And it's not acceptable that too many places are privatized and that it's
or government owned. Or government owned.
Yeah, because then you can then you will not have your fair share of the earth anymore. And in fact, everyone who wants to drive you away from a piece of land should only do that.
Get on my land,
If they think that you have a share of the earth that's too large. So when you claim 2,000 hectares of land in the middle of the Netherlands, and you put a fence, and that's your part, maybe that's too much, and maybe people have good arguments. But if you just moor your boat and you don't own any land, then it's very strange that people have the feeling that it's normal that they drive you off your place, and that you because it should be normal to have your share of the earth, to have some space, because land is a gift from nature, and for that reason everyone can have some of it for free instead of just by paying landlords or paying governments.
There is for the last 20 years is an interesting development is going on, mainly in desolated areas in Italy, Sicily, and Spain and France. You buy yourself an old house on some acres for $1, okay, and you get it. However, you need to restore the house or make it livable, but that comes from the government. Not from a particular, from a private individual. It is the government to orchestrate that. So I like to think that is a very positive development, that the government is finally realizing we need to do something about this. People want to have land and a house, and that's what they're doing. You pay $1, $1, €1, and you get the house, ownership, but you need to clean it up in 5 to 10 years. I find it a very positive development. What do you say?
Yeah, I think it's great, but it's only possible on so-called marginal locations. So in places where no one wants to live, and villages that are rather empty.
No, it's that were established locations. they're established locations, except the people moved out because there's no work, there's no business, there's no work.
Yeah, that's what makes the land. That makes the land what we call marginal land, when no one wants to live there, and people go away, and the land is available for free. Then it's marginal land, and it would be it's great when you can have some of it, because that's also the way that, for instance, European farm laborers could get some land in the United States to get their own farm and to become independent farmers instead of farm laborers. And I think that's a great option, but it would be even greater when people don't need to cross the earth in order to find a place where they can live independently. And
so if I could jump in for 1 minute here,
make that possible.
So like that, this is all great. And so I want to, and this will make sense momentarily. So we were talking earlier about like definitions of freedom, or like absence of authority, or whatever it was. But so Vonu, this is where Vonu's interesting, is that Rayo, the creator of it in the 60s, he defines Vonu's all about coercion. It's not even necessarily about freedom. So he distinguished freedom. Freedom is defined as absence of coercion, which would be like a utopian state that's not possible in any world, in any place you live in, whether it's private or public.
Thomas More, utopia, yeah.
So it's you're never gonna be. There's no way to live in a world without coercion, private or public, government or just a mugger. Like it's not possible. So that's more of like a utopian sort of thing. Liberty is general exemption from coercion. So this would be like legal loopholes. So it's like people grant you liberty. That's kind of it's like a legal loophole is kind of what they're more known as here in the States. And then Vonu is an invulnerability to coercion, which is also probably not possible, but it's the ultimate goal. Is to build a lifestyle that is as invulnerable to coercion as humanly possible, and that's where like you guys you're making a lot of really good points, and this is why like in terms of a lot of places being away from places of employment, away from places where you can make a living. Rayo talked about this a lot in the 60s and 70s, but creating income in a free manner. For him, it was more like freelancing for half the year and then living off that income for the rest of the year. Today, with digital nomadism and things like that, it's even it's a lot further than that, to where, like we started season 2, like the practice of Vonu, that is the very first thing, because if you're going to, regardless, like one of the biggest first things, if you're going to have a mobile lifestyle, it's how the hell are you going to make your money? And thankfully, financial independence is easier now because they're digital means. So like I think a lot of these possibilities are going to open up, whether it's from digital nomadism like that, or even more efficient and definitely more efficient like off-grid energy sources. So some of these places that may not have been feasible before might actually be today. So in some ways, we're talking a lot about like the worldwide totalitarianism being the way that it is, pretty much. But there's also an abundance of opportunities. There are, with obviously a lot of dangers too. But I just wanted to jump in there with that before I forgot about it.
Yeah,
I agree. Yeah.
Thank you.
And I think I also mentioned both of the strategies for liberty, because I think both are important. So the moral revolution, that would be the greatest result if we would make people more tolerant to people who want to choose their own lifestyle. But the other strategy, and in my book I refer to it as becoming ungovernable. That's also something important, because the rulers will also become less powerful if we as people find ways to become ungovernable.
Yep. I come across that American website, become ungovernable. Yeah. Now, utopia will never, ever occur, but we might get close to it. And I think that's the best we can do. Also have to keep in mind that some people are just miserable bastards. You cannot talk to these people. You cannot do anything with these people, but they screw up everything what you do. You have to keep that in mind, that not everybody sees it your way. Okay? Yeah, I'm a libertarian, leave me the hell alone. No, they just keep on Remember,
I think that's a very very important thing for humankind to find ways to make rulers less powerful. And as soon as rulers become very powerful, we have a big problem as a complete society. And no, that's what's happening today.
yeah,
And I hope that we can find ways to make rulers less powerful again, because that's what we need as individuals who want to live in a peaceful way.
yeah. It's I remember 4 or 5 years ago, Shane, you probably remember that 4 to 5 years ago, you had the rampage with the bulldozer. Somewhere in Illinois, I think. There was an independent contractor. He ran a muffler shop, and the local council, the local county, made his life miserable. And that poor guy worked there for 30 years on a muffler shop, and I was doing fine, but they interrupted his business. They closed off the road. They wouldn't come across with monies and permit to extend this business. So he built himself a bulldozer.
Yeah, you're talking about killdozer. Yeah, killdozer. Yeah.
The killdozer. Yeah, that is somebody who couldn't take it anymore. The government was making his life miserable, and he took action on it. And that was incredible to see. It's on YouTube, and I must admit I couldn't find peace what he did. I couldn't find peace for it because he did destroy property that was not his and it was not from the government. He did destroy property. You shouldn't do that. You should take that killdozer and go straight to City Hall and drive in City Hall on the front and come out at the backside and take all the son of a bitches on the street. I should have done that, but so much for that.
Now, that's when we discuss strategies for liberty, then it's very questionable if those kind of strategies work. So people who are in favor of liberty love individuals who try to take action to fight for their liberty, but on the other hand, usually those strategies are not very successful because probably he will get in trouble with the police or the military, and they will just stop him. And also, from the view of the moral revolution, it's also very questionable if it works, because maybe many people will just think that's a stupid person or a crazy person. Instead of that, he will make liberty more popular again. So,
But what is your opinion regarding the Amish and the Quakers and the Mennonites in North America? They mostly live in the prairie out there, and they have a society goes back to the 1850s, 1860s. Perhaps I do confuse a simple way of living with liberty. You think that's possible? A simple way of life with liberty?
Yeah, but I think that many of those people, and I'm not a specialist in this topic, but I think that many of these peoples were in favor of liberty. And for instance, I think that Thomas Paine, who was really into liberty, but also was into a wiser way to view earth ownership. I think he was a Quaker, for instance, and the English people also want to live their life their own way, and and that sounds great, but it's also important that individuals within a community like that can make the choices they want and can really live how they prefer. So there should also not be oppression of individuals within a group like that, and that's an important remark. As soon as groups of people want to have their own lifestyle, that they should still consider the individual rights of the members of their society.
The Amish, the Quakers. I cannot believe that there are no radicals in that group of people in the Amish. There are no. I cannot imagine there is not. I'm sure there is a radical somewhere, and he probably will get thrown out of the group, out of the community, or he's probably given some time to come to his senses, or her senses for that matter. But I like the Amish. I've been there a couple of times, just drive through the countryside. And it's quite interesting to see those little buggies. And but these people understand each other and they understand emotions, because when a young man turns 18, when a boy turns 18, he gets 2 years the time to do what he wants, okay, within restrictions. But he gets 2 years time to do what he wants, go wild. And after those 2 years, it's over and out, and now you go back to the fold and you behave yourself. That is something to look forward to, I'd say. Because some people here in the Western society do it their whole life, do what the hell they do what the hell they please.
Yeah,
But
one of the interesting things I heard about the Amish people is that they got problems with government officials because they wanted to produce food in the way they preferred, so in a low-tech way.
yeah.
Didn't comply with some government regulations, and they got fined for those kind of things. Now, I think that's a typical example of people who want to do their things their own way, and where they should be left alone.
I usually call it. We have some Amish around here, but they're like there's fake Amish and real Amish, and they're more like the commercial Amish. So I think there's even spectrums. I'm guessing there might even be more, quote unquote radical Amish, I guess. Groups, yeah.
There must be, but you never hear about these people.
And that's why they continue to exist. Yeah, it's because people don't know about them.
Yeah. There is a concept of raw milk. The government doesn't like raw milk. You cannot have it. You cannot produce it. You cannot sell it. But the Amish do.
Yeah, and we got to get special permits and inspections and all that. Because we get local raw milk here, but yeah, it's a licensed place.
Yeah, but you mean it's available for people can buy raw milk?
Yeah, it can't be, if it leaves the property, it has to be pasteurized. But that's it's stipulations to it. But yeah, and most.
So you talk about the milk. You talk about the milk bar. You go inside and have a glass of raw milk.
No, you can buy gallons, but if they take it off the property, like they can't go sell it at like a booth. They have to sell the raw milk out of their licensed location, which is their house.
Oh yeah. Oh, interesting. And I don't know, but perhaps you know that. Is it possible to obtain in this country raw milk?
Yeah, even in Lelystad.
No shit?
Yeah, sure.
Non-pasteurized milk?
Yeah, I will explain you where to go.
Okay, all right. I'll get it for later. But this subject will never go away, and we can talk for the next 100 years. But I still think there is a role to be played by the government to come up with a law, or to make it all possible. Like I said earlier, in some parts of Italy, Sicily, you can get yourself an old building and some land for $1, and you're home free. Except you need to repair it. So that is a beginning, I'd say. That's a beginning. Perhaps you will take that and run with it.
Yeah. But I think you should read the contract very carefully. But maybe there's in the contract that you can buy the property very cheap, but then need to hire some companies from a list, some local companies who may be friends with the government, who you should hire in order to make your building nice again.
Interesting concept. I haven't looked into that per se. I just picked up the newspaper article because about 5-6 years ago I began here in Holland, because in the 60s and the 70s we had lots of Italian laborers came from Italy. They worked here in the mines and on the fields, and now they're older, they're retired, and they go back where they came from, and they buy themselves an old house and fix it up, and they're home free. They're retired. That is nice.
Yeah, that is great. Nice. I think when people can have an affordable place to live, they can buy a cheap house, that really contributes to their liberty.
Yeah, but the problem is it doesn't stop there because you live in that house for a while and you look around and says, geez, I sure like to get my house bigger, make it bigger, put a garage in for my cars, or I want to buy that house too. Then the shit start all over again. You know what I'm saying?
And that's the reason why Geoism has designed a complete economical system to enable every individual to have their share of the earth. But yeah, it may be far away from now until we live in a Geoist utopia.
I think they tell me, or I read somewhere, that Thomas More, he wrote that piece, Utopia, and it was just a joke for him. I said, I'm going to write something and that's a joke. Nobody's going to believe me. That's just, he wrote it. And it was just an exercise in futility. That's all what it is. And everybody took it, read it, and it runs away with it. But no, utopia cannot exist. Cannot exist. And
most utopias need that people behave in very strange ways. For instance, that people get rid of their selfishness and do very unnatural things.
Yeah,
and I think
become model citizens.
Yeah, I think that's something very important to consider if you figure out which utopia may work. And I think the advantage of Geoism is that it leaves intact the idea of some kind of truly free market where people can just discuss about what they will do for each other and what they charge for it. And that means that it's much more realistic than utopias where people will just voluntarily will work very hard for other people without being paid for it.
Yeah.
So that that Geoism is some kind of free market utopia.
And there is such as barter, huh? I perform, I do something for you, and you do something for me.
Yeah, that's barter. That's
bartering.
I regard as the free trade.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, free. Yeah. No, it's barter. It's barter. It's not necessarily free trade, but barter, as you say, is part of being a libertarian. Barter, because there is no coercion needed, because you work for somebody, because you need to do it in order to get what you want. It's all done by. Sorry.
Now, the word free market has got a bad connotation because people regard it as a system where the biggest companies have very much power over us together with the government. So some people see the situation we are in now as a free market situation.
Yeah.
But I think that a real free market is a free market where the balance between the power balance between people and companies and the government has been restored, and the way how we own the earth is the key factor for that.
Yeah. You have capitalism and you have fascism. Now, the way I understand it is fascism is an coercion between government and free enterprise. Mm-hmm. They work together to their own. I forgot the English word for it. To find their own happiness. The government and private business work together, but basically it's fascism. It's interesting because that word is found by what is it? Italiaanse dictator. The second word.
Mussolini, I think.
Mussolini. Yeah, Mussolini created that word. He used that once, and it's quite interesting that Mussolini was a journalist, Boris Johnson was a journalist, Churchill was a journalist. That's an allemaal mensen die know how to use words. They have the gift of gab. That's those people, and you need to be careful of that because they always acquire power. Dictators, minister, president, and prime minister. The gift of gab, and if you have that, you're good. You're going to make money left and right. You can do what you want. But
that's the problem we need to resolve. We need to find ways to get to deal with rulers in the right way.
Yeah, Aha was another one. He had the gift of gab. He managed to spellbound people with his rebel rousing, and most people fall for that. I probably did too, one way or another. But then again, it's difficult to not to fall for it, because you're being promised green fields and blue seas and money. You're going for it. It's no other way.
Now, yeah, when things go wrong and people in a society cannot live together peacefully anymore, then it's very important to understand that first, the basic norm should be live and let live. So if people don't want to work together, they should be left alone. And second, that people who want to be left alone, that they should have their share of the earth. Because if you leave people alone, but you don't give them some land where they can live on, you take away their homes, you take away their farms, you don't allow them to run a business, then they don't have a real alternative. So that's the reason why liberty and earth ownership are extremely strongly connected.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. But gentlemen, we've been going for about an hour and 20 minutes, and I do want to respect your time, because it's mid-afternoon for me, but it's getting late over there. So I don't know. I'm not a night owl myself. Living on a homestead, I'm pretty much
It's 22:30 in the evening.
Yeah, up early and
It's
to bed early too. So
you need to take care for your sheep and your chickens.
Yeah, and it's just kind of a cycle now. It doesn't. I mean, it is what it is. But it's better. I used to. I was in my teenager, younger years. I would stay up all night and have just a really, really messed up.
not too long ago.
Yeah, not too long ago. It feels like a long time ago, but.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, it's been amazing chatting. I guess I'll give you guys one more opportunity. Any closing thoughts for the listeners? And obviously keep in mind, any feedback or advice on. Sailing or living in a van, or any closing advice for someone who is interested in these radical lifestyles. Maybe they're living it right now. Words of wisdom, whatever. And I guess we'll go with you first, Maarten, since started with Barend.
Yeah. Well, something comes to mind that is respect yourself and respect your neighbor. That's all there is to it, I find.
Cheers to that.
What do you say, Barend?
Beautiful word. Now, I think when you want to live on a boat, it's important to distinguish between both strategies.
Alternative lifestyle. Alternative lifestyle is a better way.
Yeah, when you want to have an alternative lifestyle in general, I think the first option is hiding. So, for instance, when you have a boat that's very small, you can just put it in a secret place and you don't get too much attention. But the second option should also be considered, and that's the option of being accepted. And one example that I should still mention for in the Netherlands is people who live on old historical vessels. So in the Netherlands, more governments accept people who want to live on a boat if the boats are historically interesting. And that's a trick to be accepted and still have the option to live how you prefer. And I think that's also something that people can seek who want to live in liberty.
Yeah, but that requires work. If you live aboard an old vessel, an old house, it requires work to keep it going, to keep it presentable, to keep it useful. And when you get older, that's not always an option.
Yeah, and I also agree that it's not true liberty, because I think anyone who wants to live on a boat should have the option to find a place to put the boat when it's a very beautiful old boat, but also when it's a very ugly boat or when it's rusty. Also, people who want to live on an ugly boat should have a place to put their boat.
Live aboard an eyesore? I don't know.
Yeah, your boat looks great, Maarten.
Thank you. Let's put an end to this. Shane, thank you very much for the invitation, and I'm sorry for the trouble we had to get connected. But with thanks to Barend, I managed to get it going again.
Oh, no problem at all. No problem at all. Thanks so much for your time, Martin. Barend, same to you, my friend. It's been great connecting
and I still miss America. You know that, of course, huh? I used to live for 27 years, I'm a Yankee by now.
That's very Yankee with an accent. Yeah.
Yeah. My old man was born and raised in Ohio.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Not far from me at all. Not at all.
Yeah. Columbus, Ohio. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm a Yankee.
Okay. Great.
Very good.
I love him. Sorry.
It was a pleasure to speak with you. Great. And good luck with your podcast and everything you do to promote liberty and to enable other people to find ways to live in liberty.
Hey, cheers, man.
Exactly.
I appreciate that a lot. I appreciate you guys coming on to share. Like I said in the beginning, you guys are we're done now. I'm just going to do a quick closeout. So if you want to go to bed or whatever, or you can hang around for a few minutes if you like. But like I said at the beginning, if anyone any self-liberators are interested in coming on and talking about their lifestyle, send me an email at shane@liberated.com or DM wherever it's convenient. And again, if you aren't much into the audio or video sort of stuff, then feel free to just send that to me in an article, and I can put that in audio format myself. I'll
try. It's all new for me, but this is the very first time I do this.
Very first time.
This communication. This is the very first time. It's all new for me. So
very good.
I need to make some notes. I need to find some material in order to carry on a conversation. It's going to be a while. But I'll talk for further information. I'll speak to Barend regarding if you're going to repeat this again.
Sure.
All right.
Sounds good. Sounds great. Sounds good.
Okay.
No, great. No, have a nice day, and thank you both.
Cheers, guys. Have a good one.
Thank you, gentlemen. I'm gonna.
Okay. All right, and thank you so much to Barend and Maarten for coming on and sharing. What a valuable discussion. I did not, there were a couple listener questions, more on kind of nuts and bolts maintenance sort of things, but I didn't think that would work very well into. I don't think that's where Martin's head is at right now. It's more maintenance. I think he's trying to minimize maintenance, which might have been valuable to ask anyway. But it was definitely more of a philosophical, abstract conversation. I wasn't expecting to. I guess I didn't make the connection before about Geoism and Georgism, which I guess I'm slightly familiar with. I'm pretty sure. I read Human Action twice by Mises, and I'm pretty sure. Every single economic argument you could try to destroy, he pretty much did. So I'm sure I read something on it. I don't recall I don't recall much about it. But yeah, what a great discussion, and some great tips and tricks and things to look into for the folks in Europe or for those who are maybe considering traveling across the pond. Like I said, in the near future, you'll be able to find Barend's book on liberty and earth ownership on the Liberty Under Attack Publications website. On the catalog, it's libertyunderattack.com. On that note, for our full catalog of freedom and liberation-focused books, audiobooks, and bundles, for privacy tools like Ghost Phones or Ghost Paths, or for wellness items from Aura's Apothecary, or my newest release, The Pain Liberator, Miracle Muscle Pain Reliever Spray, just visit libertyunderattack.com. Liberty Attack Publications, share your story, find your freedom. And to finally, please do consider checking out the website, vonupodcast.com. That's VONU podcast.com. For free audiobooks, full podcast archives, teasers from upcoming Vonu zine releases, comical advertisements, promos, and much more. And I'll point out, if you ever are looking for any topic, a guest, Vonu definition, whatever it might be, there is a search bar right at the top to make it very easy to find whatever you're searching for. I guess that's it. Thanks so much again to Maarten and Barend for coming on, and thank you for tuning in. Until next time.
This is the basic law of life, and dear listeners, it is spiritual in its nature. If man failed to do everything in his power to protect his life, as a result of such neglect lost his life, then the destiny for which the soul came to earth would end there. Without life, a body or medium to function through, spiritual attainment would be impossible, ladies and gentlemen. Spirituality would then be forfeited. You see, if man's life was threatened without cause on his part, and he failed to do everything in his power to prevent death, he would then be guilty of 3 actual crimes. He would first of all permit the enemy to commit murder. Next, he would be committing suicide by failing to protect the most precious possession given to man by his Creator. And worst of all, he would end whatever his destiny might be, the purpose for which body, mind, and life had been given to him. And I believe it's to learn something. In one respect, man is forced to be a warring, not a murdering creature. And I might inject here that the Ten Commandments does not say, in its original form, thou shalt not kill. It says, ladies and gentlemen, and you can check this, if you wish, go to the original Hebrew and Greek, it says, thou shalt not murder. So in one respect, man is forced to be a warring, not a murdering creature. From his birth, the law of self-preservation forces him to be on guard against every inimical force attempting to destroy him by one means or another. He must be on the alert to prevent man, natural forces, or his own carnal desires to betray him into acts of degradation. Man is a warring creature. But his war, I tell you, his war is an honorable one. It is one of protection. First himself, so that he may protect those he is responsible for, but in doing so must not take unfair advantage of others, nor be guilty of unrighteousness. The nature of this was and is actually spiritual. It is the battle of righteousness against evil. It is a war biblically spoken of as taking place in heaven because it is waged within man's spiritual nature. He fights to fulfill destiny and to finally create heaven on earth for himself and others who follow. By the war of righteousness, wherein there is no selfishness, he attains the consciousness which makes him a man, knowing both good and evil, having chosen good to attain the promised sonship. Notice, you must choose. You must choose. Each and every one of you listening to this broadcast tonight must choose, and you must choose very quickly. You might ask, is there actually a need for some form of evil in the life of man? Was this, together with some form of fear, ordained in the beginning? And I say nothing has been ordained, but if the divine law is to be fulfilled in the life of man, then it is certainly necessary that he, according to sacred concepts, become a crusader in God's cause, and not exist as a negative, effortless, uncreative, unproductive creature, a leech, a parasite upon the rest. The first command is that he must become a man in the true sense of the term, and this implies that he must prepare himself to meet the enemy that is ever alert to destroy the best that he has created. He must meet evil as the soldier meets the enemy. Doing this in the righteousness of his conscience neutralizes fear. Many of you call and ask me, Bill, aren't you afraid? My answer has always been and always will be no. No, no, and no. For I know from where I have come, and I know where I am going. I know who I am, and I know that I possess a soul. I fear the actions of no man. I fear the judgment of no man. I fear only the judgment of my God. And I know that if I am doing what is right, I need not ever fear that judgment. And therefore, I am not afraid.